Hello. So that's us back for episode 3 of the Mindful Cave. It's me again, Safa, and Maliha's here too.
Yeah, I'm here.
But we're just back to talk about maybe a different perspective of what we were talking about last time. So last time we went over what our experiences were in school, in high school, primary school, what we kind of went through in an education space. And this time around we're going to talk about that, but in a slightly different way. Again, I just want to start by saying thank you to CORRA Foundation for funding this, because we're having so much fun with this.
This is great, honestly. With that, this has given us so much avenue to be like, okay, we can do this.
I know. So
thank you for that.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk about kind of the experience of maybe what homeschooling has been like, and what kind of experiences you've had around racism in a homeschool environment. So me and Maliha are both not homeschooled, but we both work with young people who we have a Friday group that we run, and majority, in fact just over half, are homeschool kids, and they have shared a lot of their experiences over the time that we've been in this youth group. And they were talking about how I had a conversation with them recently, and I was talking about maybe what their experiences have been in homeschooling, and overall they kind of talked about feeling a bit kind of lonely, and like not being able to, although there is a community around homeschooling, it's just not finding maybe the social groups that they would like to be in and experience.
And they did kind of talk about their own perspectives of homeschooling and what the differences they might have to kids who are in public schools.
Yeah, we actually had a discussion. It was kind of like we did like both perspectives, where the young people that are from main school streaming talked about their experience compared to the young people from homeschooling experience.
Yeah.
And they talked about how different it can be. And some of them have been through mainstream schooling and then taken on homeschooling. Yeah. And they talked about how difficult it was for them to adjust to it. Some of them want to go back. Some of them love it as well. Yeah. Some of them love being essentially self-educated.
But for some, there were people who, like you said, they liked the idea of having a bit more like flexibleness in their schedule. Yeah. Whereas others really liked that they had a set timetable. They knew where they were going, a change of pace, a change of scenery and stuff like that. Yeah. So there was a lot of discussion around that. But actually what I found interesting, now this is me coming from my own kind of ignorance, but when I assumed homeschool kids, I would just think of like their mom and dad is teaching them, and and mom and dad may or may not have a teaching background, but they're kind of doing the curriculum and things like that. And I thought, in my perspective, I would have thought that they don't have many opportunities to engage in things that schools provide, you know, like science, the way science do things, maybe art, school trips, the kind of assemblies, things like that. But actually speaking to the young people, they actually really did mention about how it's not that big of a difference in terms of the opportunities, as much as the opportunities can look different. They still have that ability to engage in something like that. It's not like completely closed off.
It's done in their own time.
It's done in their own time, and there is differences in the sense of, like you said, it's not with a whole community necessarily, like your whole class, but they are able to go to trips that obviously their parents are arranging for educational purposes. So it was a bit of an eye-opener for me, but like Safa said, there were kids who really love being homeschooled, and some kids who just would rather be going to public schools. But it was interesting to hear from young people today their perspectives of experiencing racism. So one guy literally said, how will I experience racism when I'm the only one there? Which is a fair point. He literally said that.
He was like, I'm at home by myself, where is the racism going to be?
And that was the point of the conversation. We were trying to figure out, well, where are you exposed to it to? And I know these this specific younger generation now, there's a lot more of an online presence. So there is online and there is socializing.
He did say he got some name calling online.
Yeah. So,
eventually.
Yeah. But it was interesting to know about, there was also something that I learned for the first time, that some homeschool kids actually go to centres where they can get some classes for things.
Yeah, so they have some in-person classing.
Yeah.
Teaching.
Which I didn't know of at all.
Also when they set their exams, they do it in person usually.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting to hear how. So I asked the question, essentially was like, have you experienced racism through homeschooling? And their answer was essentially no. They were like, nah, we haven't, never, not really. And then I kind of dug deeper, and then it was like, oh, maybe one or two things, like you know, like he said, he got name called online or something, or one of them said something like, oh, I honestly can't remember what he said.
I'm not sure.
Anyways.
But it's something along
Yeah,
those
there
lines.
was another one as well, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But
that's okay.
Yeah, and then I asked them maybe if they've experienced racism in different ways, and they were talking about how they do experience it at with school. And they talked a lot about, so this is what I've noticed a lot, is that some of the young boys, they talk about how they call each other names, and it's through their own culture or a different culture or whatever it is, but they one of them was saying, oh, I call my friend this, but he calls me this back, so it's okay. And it's like, is it okay though? Like, are you okay with that? And they seem like, to them it seems fine.
It's normal to them.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a casual conversation. That's how they talk to each other.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is
debatable.
To their own.
Yeah, it's debatable. Yeah.
But I then asked the girls the same question. So I kind of made this more slightly a gender thing than I did end up making it a homeschool thing.
It turned out that way.
Yeah, and then it seemed like they experienced slightly different way of racism. So we were talking about, I think they triggered a couple memories for us when we were talking.
Yeah.
The girls were talking about, so this is age group, I don't think I mentioned, the age group is like 12 to 15. So they're all high school age. And one of the girls mentioned something like, at first they all again said they've never experienced racism, and I was like, that can't be possible. Like I just didn't believe it. And then I was like, come on, there must be something. And then someone said something around their skin tone, and one of the girls was like, oh, someone said that like my skin tone looked nice, I looked like I had a nice tan when I came back from holiday. And I was like, that's a bit of a racist undertone. Like, there's something to that.
There's an undertone of it, yeah, definitely.
And then she was like, oh yeah, I guess so. And then they came up with so many other things, and they were like, I think girls say it in a different way. And I kind of questioned that, and I was like, what do you mean? And then we came to this sort of conclusion that sometimes girls say things in a way that doesn't really seem like an insult or like a racist remark or any sort of, like,
it's not as obvious and straightforward.
Yeah, so it's a roundabout way of saying something that might be racist or might be, so like a passive aggressive way of saying it. Yeah, so they were talking about the tan thing, and they were like, oh, you're tan but maybe a bit too much, and you're like, that's racism. Yeah, like that's blatant racism. They didn't quite understand that at first. Yeah, but they couldn't see it. And like another thing, at that age you're so like confused by it, and also like desensitized by it, and especially young kids nowadays are so exposed to so many things that for them it's like, oh well, that's just I'm not phased, it doesn't bother me. And you're like, but there's an impact of it on you because you're internalizing these messages of like, oh okay, well I am like, and being too dark, and like being in this kind of culture where being Pakistani, and depending on how cultural your families are, being too dark is seen as a bad thing. You know, and it is, you know, if you hear that from someone else and then they say, oh, maybe a bit too dark, and then it's like, as much as it doesn't feel hurtful in the moment, you're internalizing it because it's mixing in with the other messages you're getting from maybe somewhere else as well. So it was interesting to see that as much as the kids say they didn't experience much racism, they were talking about a lot of different experiences of racism. Yeah, exactly. And you know, feeling that being homeschooled, and especially being homeschooled, and they're of
young people of color feeling that isolation that well, that they don't have that big of a community, so they aren't able to make many friends that way.
Yeah.
But the good thing is they're able to rely on family, because traditionally people from South Asian backgrounds have bigger families, so they have them to rely on, but that's different from having friends.
Yeah.
And they can feel that sense of like social impact of being first being a homeschool kid, because that's not very common.
Yeah.
For young people that age, and they already
totally
feel different already. Put on top of that they're a person of color, and that their specific religion, that adds to that already sense of like belonging, identity that's going on so much at that age.
There's so many different factors to it.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with the isolation, it's really integrated in terms of what they're experiencing and what they've had. But yeah, I think from there we've just really seen the difference between what you experience in mainstream schools or like public schools, and then the kids who are homeschooled. And I think as well, not just their experience of racism, but also their different experiences of how they view things or how they kind of understand things is completely different in itself. Yeah. So it was really interesting.
It's a whole other generation.
Oh, it's a whole different,
We're not old again, I promise.
Yeah, we're, disclaimer right here, we're not at all.
We're not that old, but we do say things that make us seem
feel
older.
Like we're from like the 90s.
Especially when we work with young people and they're like, oh, I got told today that I belong in a museum, which was fantastic news. I love hearing that kind of stuff. But,
okay.
Yeah, I think I kind of shared my experience of isolation in high school as well with the young people, where I was talking about how culturally I felt excluded. And it wasn't anyone's fault in any particular way. It was just more that like I wanted to feel part of like, so I had a lot of friends. Again, I grew up in a predominantly white secondary school, and by second or third year most people started drinking, and I don't drink. I'm Muslim. Like, I'm not going to. I'm not that kind of Muslim either. That well, but like, I'm not. I don't drink, and I don't like. I just can't be involved around it. And
that's for your boundaries. Yeah.
And of course, my parents would never like let me go out with friends that were drinking, but I wouldn't want to either. Yeah. And
you don't want to compromise something for yourself, just to be included.
But I did feel very isolated after that time period, because every time my friends were going out, it was to drink or it was to do something that I was most definitely not allowed to do. And it just felt like,
that reminder that you're different.
And it wasn't, nothing was, so recently we were talking about people's proms and how our proms went, and someone mentioned that so when me and Milha were having our prom, it was Ramadan, so we were fasting. Yeah. But someone mentioned that they moved prom for their school because they're predominantly Pakistani or ethnic minority, so a lot of them were fasting, so they moved prom for them
to a later date,
so away from Ramadan, so they could eat there and enjoy it. So it was very inclusive, but that didn't happen at my school.
That did not happen at my school.
That was the same year for us. That girl mentioned it. She was also in the same year. But I remember fasting the day of prom, and I remember like having to go out the building to go get and break my fast.
Because dinner was served at that point.
Yeah, it was served early. Everybody had eaten. Everybody had done so, and I had to leave the building to get something to open my fast and then go back up. But it was just, like the simple thing of moving the date probably would have been easy for them to do. Like, there was a prom committee. They probably could have went and asked if this is okay, or checked up. But it threw me off. But she said that, and I was like, oh well.
That's something that they did. I
didn't know that was a possibility.
That could happen at all. I thought it was like every year since.
But I didn't want to be an inconvenience because I was probably the only Muslim girl fasting at that time, anyways. So I was like,
for one person, why should it?
Yeah. But I shouldn't have to feel like that. I feel like I should have at least said. I probably should have felt like I could say something, but I obviously didn't. Yeah. Definitely. I just found that very interesting. But again, I did feel very isolated because it was just
the cultural difference in what you
many cultural differences where I just felt like I didn't belong in that place, and it took me a long time to figure out where I do belong. But I'm good now.
That's a story for another time.
Exactly.
But I think, like Safa said, as much as we don't have any direct experience with homeschooling and stuff like that, because we were able to observe our young people and engage in that discussion, we were able to pick up quite a lot from what they've shared.
Yeah.
So, like, again, we're not representing homeschooled kids.
Yeah, we're just talking about some experiences.
Some experiences and things we've observed in our line of work, and as well as what the young people have shared with us directly. So I think from there, that's kind of giving us at least a bit of an insight of the different perspectives of racism. You know, the first episode being racism in general, second episode being about racism in school and educational setting, and then the third kind of following the second episode, but specifically looking at homeschool kids. It's been kind of like a different way of looking at the kind of purpose of why it's important to talk about racism and talk about these things that people experience, because we shouldn't feel like we have to be quiet about it, because these things happen and we shouldn't like be allowed to share it. And it's not that we want to get people in trouble or we want to make a big fuss about it, but it's just sharing the things that have happened and how that's impacted and shared kind of shaped us to this day.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave it at that for the third episode, and yeah, I think that's easy enough to wrap up here.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much for listening again.
And that's us. Thanks.